The next speaker is the Honorable Ndhela.
Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly, Honourable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honourable Members of Parliament, fellow South Africans. We rise today on behalf of Mkhonto weSizwe Party, the official opposition in Parliament, to respond to Mr. Ramaphosa's 2025 failed state of the nothingness address, an address that regrettably felt less like a reflection of our nation state and more like a maiden speech of someone who's just been newly appointed to a job. Laden with recycled promises, hollow rhetoric, and dressed in the usual fanfare that has become the hallmark of these kind of annual events. The Sona platform is not meant to be a ceremonial spectacle or a stage for lofty promises. It should be a moment of accountability where the nation hears an honest assessment of past commitments and concrete plans for the future. Instead, we witnessed yet another episode of political theatrics, a fashion show camouflaged with empty, hot air rhetoric. Mr. Ramaphosa's speech was filled with promises eerily similar to those made in 2024, 2023, and even earlier. Let us not be fooled by his eloquence. South Africans deserve more, Mr. President, than promises. They deserve results. We have listened to these commitments before, and yet the realities on the ground tell a different story. A story of betrayal, neglect, and failure. Now let's look at the military sacrifices. We mourn the loss of 14 South African soldiers, with this number still rising. These young men and women died not to defend our sovereignty, but to protect the government's economic interests in foreign lands. The least you could have done was to equip them better, yet you led your incompetent, less caring finance minister to keep defunding the military budget. Their blood is in the hands of the government that prioritizes profits over people. A failed state. Unemployment and poverty. The president speaks of economic growth and job creation, but the facts expose the truth. Whilst the population grows at the rate of 1.3 million people a year, the South Africa's unemployment rate remains the highest globally, sitting at 42%, with young people's unemployment exceeding 60%. Millions of our people, particularly the youth, are stuck in a cycle of poverty with no clear path out. The so-called inclusive growth has excluded majority, particularly black working class. Again, it's a failed state. Crime and gender-based violence. The president mentions crime reduction efforts, but South Africans live daily in fear. Violent crime rates have surged, with over 27,000 murders recorded last year alone. Women and children continue to face the brunt of this violence. Gender-based violence remains a national crisis, yet the government response is fragmented and unfunded. Our police are under-resourced, demoralized, and often complicit in the same crimes they are meant to prevent. Let alone the fact that, by the way, the 10111 contact center number doesn't work. Again, a failed state. Landless and homelessness. Land reform has been short of nothing of a disaster under this administration. The Expropriation Act, recently signed into law, is nothing but a rebranded apartheid relic, a repackaging of the Expropriation Act of 1975. It does nothing to address historical land issues. It is the same apartheid wine in a different bottle. The MK Party will not endorse half-baked legislation. We will push for an amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution to enable genuine land expropriation without compensation, to return the land to our people. And again, we know it's a failed state. Diluted national health insurance. The national health insurance signed into law is a betrayal to the needs of our people. It will not collapse private medical aids, but will instead make them richer. This government remains committed to protecting white capital interests, always pleasing whiteness at the expense of our people. Our hospitals continue to fall apart. Clinics lack basic supplies. Mothers give birth in corridors. Children die due to preventable diseases. President, this is a failed state. Education crisis. Our schools have become drug dens rather than centers of learning. Infrastructure is crumbling. Children still learn under trees, pit toilets, overcrowded classrooms. The Bella Act, now in the hands of the DA in consultation with the AfriForum, will not transform our education system because of the racist DA who will then never implement that good for blacks. It will be another law gathering dust while our children suffer. Again, this is a failed state. In conclusion, the MK party stands firm. We will not be complicit in endorsing laws, policies that betray the people. We will fight relentlessly for real land reform, genuine economic transformation, and for the dignity of the restoration of the crumbling health of our education systems. We will champion justice for poor, marginalized, and those left behind. This is not just our responsibility as the official opposition, it is our revolutionary duty, born from the struggles of our forebearers, to hold this government accountable. Mr. President, sir, you lead a failed state. Kwaza mkhonto kwaza!
Order, honourable members. The next speaker is the Honourable Minister of Public Works. Order, honourable member. Order, honourable members. The Honourable Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Honourable Chairperson, Mr. President, honourable members. This afternoon we reflect on the state of our nation, which is currently one that is under construction. But words alone are not enough, and Mr. President, time is not on our side. For 30 years, many promises have been made with little or no results. When the Democratic Alliance joined the Government of National Unity 7 months ago, I committed to turning South Africa into a construction site, to drive economic growth and job creation, and to use public assets for public good. What I found in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure was an organization crippled by neglect, inefficiency, and overtaken by corruption. Morale was low, and its core mandate to build infrastructure, create jobs, and ensure public assets serve the people was failing. But just in 7 months, that story is now beginning to change. We are building a department with a bold vision, with staff that are motivated, and where big ideas are embraced. One of my most important decisions has been to use public assets for public good. For far too long, state-owned properties have stood vacant, attracting crime and decay. In a major policy shift, we have released public properties for request for proposals, inviting both the public and the private sectors to submit their ideas. Soon we will be converting eyesores, such as the barracks in eThekwini, into a mixed-use development where the first new skyscraper will be built in Durban in the last 20 years. In our first round of proposals, we have released 31 properties for redevelopment at a value of 1.4 billion rand. Mr. President, this is going to generate up to 10 billion rand in private sector investment, create 165,000 jobs, and generate close to 200 million rand in rental income for the South African government. This is what the DA is delivering in the GNU. In Tshwane, we have handed over a state-owned land to community projects in Mamelodi after years of delay, which demonstrates our commitment to community development. We are taking decisive action against corruption and mismanagement. In just 7 months, we have launched investigations into the failed Telkom Towers project, which cost more than R1 billion, and the 800 million rand IDT oxygen tender. Mr. President and honourable members, I am taking a zero-tolerance approach to corruption and will hold officials and politicians to account for their role in these scandals. This is what the DA is delivering in the GNU. Honourable members, through Infrastructure South Africa, we have launched the first of its kind project preparation fund worth 180 million rand to prepare and package infrastructure projects across government. This first bid window has been completely oversubscribed and is a testament to the big reforms we have introduced in just 7 months. In another first, we have launched the Adopt a Municipality program, where we will pilot an infrastructure partnership program with 4 local municipalities to maximize infrastructure spending and efficiency. And soon we hope to roll this program out across the country. This is what the DA is delivering in the GNU. We have started to conduct a skills audit to ensure that we have the expertise to execute on our mission.
Honourable Minister, will you just take a seat, please? There's an honourable member who wants to be recognised. Why do you rise, honourable member?
Honourable Speaker, I rise on the point of order in terms of Joint Rule 14P. This is the third time the Honourable Minister made references to what he calls the GNU.
Honourable member, take your seat.
There is no such thing as
Honourable member,
in
take
this
your
government.
seat.
This is a coalition.
That's a point for
between
debate. Take
his
your seat,
party
please.
And the DA.
That's a point for debate. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
We have started to conduct a skills audit to ensure that we have the expertise to execute on our mission. And we have declared war on the construction mafia, which has held infrastructure projects hostage for far too long. The Durban Declaration, signed between the Department, the SAPS and the National Treasury, is a landmark agreement to dismantle these syndicates one by one. And reports of construction stoppages are already decreasing. This is what the DA is delivering in the GNU. Honourable members, we are securing public property to prevent land invasion, crime and theft. Eviction orders have already been obtained, including at the Castle of Good Hope, ensuring public assets serve society instead of criminal elements, because no one person has the right to claim public land and buildings as their own. Despite our progress, there are some members in this House who don't want the department to succeed. While some members in this House seek out paid-for journalists and attempt to spread fake news through AI voice notes and falsified WhatsApps, including Action South Africa and the EFF, but we will not be distracted. We will not be bullied, and we will not back down. We will not be pressurized or persuaded by false reports, political collusion, or those being investigated for wrongdoing. The people of South Africa deserve a government that delivers, and that is what we will focus on. Over the next year, we will attract 100 billion rand in private sector infrastructure investment, making Infrastructure South Africa the hub of all major projects. This past week, the National Treasury has issued new PPP regulations, which we welcome. We will also launch a special projects unit to fast-track infrastructure projects and revive failed initiatives across the country. And we will redevelop small harbours, such as Hout Bay, into tourism and economic hub, bringing the next V&A waterfront, which is set, Mr. President, to attract tens of billions of rands of investment and create tens of thousands of new jobs. And we will finalise reforms to the expanded public works program to ensure it leads to permanent employment and skills development after being hijacked and abused by politicians and political parties for too long. This is what the DA is delivering in the GNU. In just 7 months, we have achieved what others have failed to accomplish in decades. The department is no longer a department of empty slogans. It is a centre of delivery. We are no longer exist to advance personal interests, but the interests of South Africans that want our country to work and who want to get to work. Across the country, thousands of public servants in our department are working diligently to build a better South Africa. This is why, Mr. President and honourable members, the DA will play its role and its part in the GNU to drive the tough economic reforms in public works and infrastructure, which will drive economic growth and job creation. This is what we have achieved in just a short 7 months. Imagine what we will achieve in a full 5-year term. This is what the DA has been delivering in the GNU. And the GNU depends on the DA to keep delivering to South Africans, and South Africans know that. This is why we will continue to turn South Africa into a construction site, one that drives economic reforms, growth and opportunity for all South Africans. This is why we will continue to build South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Order, honourable members.